Hello and welcome to day 13 of the 28 days of play. Today's invitation is to choose a color that you normally would resist. And for me, that color was most definitely black. Period, end of sentence. I knew right away it was going to be black. I just like black so much, in fact, that I don't even keep a tube of it in my studio. So instead, I started by using India ink. I chose it intentionally also because it's waterproof, and that meant I could work from dark to light without the black color bleeding into the colors above it. This is totally the opposite of how I normally paint, and definitely the opposite of the colors that I would gravitate towards or choose when starting a painting. Usually I begin with lighter values and slowly build towards darker ones, and then I circle back again. But this time, honestly, I knew I'd be starting out in very unfamiliar territory. So I grabbed a scrap of you'll probably recognize this. This is the collage paper that we used in a previous lesson. And this little burst of color made me kind of like finally exhale a little bit because I realized, okay, phew, I'm going to add a little color onto this dark black background. So I'm cutting out a bit of a vase shape, just sort of a wonky vase that maybe I could collage on top of this. And I'm just looking for some other bits that maybe I could make a handle from, just sort of deciding how to fill up that space. Something like that might work. So I'm going to attach this using some matte medium. And I like to use matte because the India ink is very flat. It has no sheen whatsoever. So I didn't want to use like a gloss medium or something like that was going to create a sheen over top of it. I knew this was going to be a challenge for me because black is my least favorite color. And it's the reason, it's not that I'm just hating on colors, right? It's because black is not a color that naturally appears out in nature. Usually the colors that we see that are from organically like dark values are when, it's a mix of different colors. So when I paint, I'm usually taking like Quin magenta and Prussian blue and mixing them together and getting this like really, really deep gray. Or, but if I'm not mixing, I'll use something like Prussian blue or Payton's gray. But my goodness, never black. Black is so flat. But I guess I was embracing the challenge and trying to stretch myself. But I did remind myself that black, in my opinion, also needs to be paired with something equally vibrant to feel like it is alive. So, you can see here I'm also adding like another scrap of paper. I felt like that little vase needed a little top to it. So I found another scrap of paper that I could glue onto the top with a matte medium. And this became sort of my starting point for creating today's floral. Honestly, I love kind of how this challenge, this prompt was inviting me to work differently and to really just trust the process. So I started to lean into it and I was having fun just adding a little more flair and flavor to my vase. I was definitely loosening up, warming up, I guess, to this idea of painting with black. And I decided to not let it be an obstacle for today's creative session. So I just wanted to ask, even if you're choosing to paint along with me today, or if you're doing your own practice and you have maybe another color that is one of those no-nos for you, I just want to challenge you to notice what comes up when you're working with this color. And honestly, you guys, there's no need to like it. I'm not asking you to suddenly fall in love with something that you don't prefer to work with, but rather just to stay curious, because that is the heart of this day 13 prompt. So I did get a little matte medium beyond the borders of my little scrap of paper there that I was repurposing the collage paper. So I'm just painting another layer down of the India ink just to take away any sheen that might have gotten onto that flat black surface. And I'm picking up my gel pen again and playing on top of that color because, you know, that's what feels really comfortable to me, right? But I decided to go ahead and just like dive into the deep end. I grabbed a white gel pen and started sketching onto it. It felt, to me, it kind of felt like drawing on a chalkboard for some reason, but there was something about it that kind of felt fun, like being a kid and just getting on the blackboard and making drawings. So I started to embrace it. It was a little wonky, but that's okay. I kept working with it. And I was just playing with, you know, kind of following the theme of the collage paper and adding some very basic shapes. And my initial thought was to allow the vase to really be the only color against the black and then just do everything else as this white and black outline. But once I kind of finished the drawing, I felt like, you know, I could have stopped there. That's definitely one way I could have handled it, but I couldn't help myself. So I grabbed some paint, and honestly, I wasn't really sure like what was gonna work well over this India ink. So at first I started working with some acrylics, but they weren't quite opaque enough. So you'll see that I actually kind of pull out some gouache as well. And I sort of work back and forth between those. And I'm also trying to decide, because I'm working on black, right? And I'm so unfamiliar with how this works. I'm trying to decide, like, you know, how bright do I mix these paints? Is that too bright? Is it not bright enough? So it's just feeling like I'm feeling a little uncertain, but I'm just trying to like keep moving forward. Sometimes you have to just remind yourself that, okay, Tish, it is just paint. It is okay. Nothing horrible is going to happen if this doesn't turn out right. And just remind yourself, it's fine. This is just the safest place that you could fail, even if that's a possibility. But even if this turns out to be something that I don't love, it's definitely something I'm still going to learn from. So I pulled out a little bit of titanium white to add to my colors because I thought, well, maybe I just need to add a little more opacity to kind of block out the black so that the colors became more vibrant. So I was kind of trying to play with that. And then I grabbed this purple, but I realized the purple itself was very transparent. Most of those colors that you buy in the tubes, they're very transparent, which is great if you're gel printing, but not great if you're working over black India ink. So I decided to kind of scrap that idea. So I decided to pull out my gouache since it is very naturally very opaque. But this really was a process of just kind of experimenting and seeing what was working. But I'll be honest with you guys, it really was a little scary to be outside of my comfort zone of the way that I normally would, you know, navigate a creative process. And I feel like, you know, kind of at the end of this, I feel like it was really good for me to realize, like, it's okay. It's not as scary as you make it out to be. And I'm glad I did it, but I still don't love black. So I'm just playing with maybe adding some more color at the bottom to sort of balance it out. I felt like there was so much color going on up top with the florals and with the vase, and so I felt like it needed something to ground it as well. And so you can see I just keep kind of editing by going back over and adding. So now I'm playing with adding some red since there's some red down in the vase, and Now, now I'm adding a little red to the vase as well, so you can tell I don't really have like a straight path for today's creative session, but I'm just trying things on and seeing what works. So another thing I decided to do was to use the India ink as a bit of an eraser, because I felt like I had gotten a little heavy-handed with my paints at the top, and I actually wanted to pull back in some more negative space. So now I'm painting over them with my magic eraser India ink and deleting some of the areas where I got a little heavy with the paint. Sometimes you just have to come up with creative solutions to fix your problems. So maybe this is a bit unorthodox, but it seems to be working. And the thing about India ink is you do really have to make sure it's completely dry. Otherwise, when you start working over it, it will bleed through for sure. I decided I didn't like that pattern down at the bottom, so again, I'm grabbing some gouache, and I really like that vermilion color I was playing with. So I decided to paint that at the bottom, and I'm gonna let it hang out there for a bit while I decide if it's gonna stay or not. So now I'm just going back in and adding some gouache over some of those little areas that I had deleted and cleaning those up a little bit with a little pop of color. I really decided it needed to be pretty vibrant up there. So in addition to those little small flowers, I'm going to go back over my petals and intensify those a little bit too. I'm already liking that yellow flower more. So I think I was trying to pull in, see the pink down there on the side of the vase. So I wanted to just pull in a bit more pink so that it would pick up that color and echo it in the flower. I was trying to brighten up those sort of lime green flowers behind too, but I'm not finding just the right color, so. And I always like to just work extra color around into things so they don't seem so flat. So what I'm trying to do here is just add a little bit of maybe that same vermilion, but a little lighter so that it looks like maybe the sun's, hitting a little bit on that side of the pot. And then I decided I wanted to pick up that gel pen again after I had dried those layers, and because I was kind of missing the white lines that I had there originally, and I decided I wanted to put those back into place. So I'm still keeping them pretty loose and sketchy, but I'm liking this much better. I'm kind of vibing with it now. And now I'm taking that line all the way around my pot just so that it looks, I don't know, I think I'm kind of enjoying the sort of illustrated look that all of this is creating. And I go with a little bit lighter color. So see how I'm trying to pick up like the gold that's up in the flower and bring that to the opposite corner. So, and then of course, you got to dip your fingers in and get out some fluorescent pink because that seems to be my go-to. Time to pull off the paint and see what we have. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of black that's left on my canvas, but I think there's just enough to add some pretty amazing contrast and really set off the pot and the flowers. So I'm just trying to touch up, this is what I'm doing, I'm just grabbing a little bit of titanium white and touching up those little places where sometimes you just get a little spillover under the tape. And so just a little cleanup. Nobody will notice, we'll never tell. So I just want to thank you for showing up for yourself today and for your willingness to kind of play at the edges of the things that we're comfortable with creatively. Thank you so much for being here for the 28 days of play. Happy painting, and I'll be back tomorrow.